On this episode of Phinside The NFL, we will discuss the potential fallout from the Miami Dolphins' victory 14-6 in their preseason finale over the Jacksonville Jaguars. We got a lot to discuss.
Loses the football! Touchdown! Got it!
You have got to be kidding me.
Jalen Waddle has a Dolphin touchdown. And he will score!
Field on the near side, man open, touchdown!
The run from Tagovailoa.
Touchdown!
He's going deep. He's got it for the touchdown again.
Tagovailoa trying to make up for it. Fires to the end zone. Touchdown!
Beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan.
Let's go!
What is good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason, and we're back here for another one. Appreciate each and one of you coming through for this episode, as we're going to discuss a lot about the fallout and potential fallout from yesterday's preseason finale. Got a lot to discuss in this episode, that's for sure. First things first, though, shout out to all you beautiful people showing up in the chat. We just started, and there's well over 100 of you. Coke Master D, Pro Special, Stetson O, Katsukiya, Marino's Goat, B-Rob, Robert Thomason, Arthur Hill, Scorpion King, Dolphin Dawn, Mark Brown, Josh Miller, Austin C. Appreciate you for coming through, sir. Who else we got in here? 99, Scorpion King, Finisher, Rory, Larry Lockridge, Steve Antoine, Ty Blake, Scotty 977, Kyle 1017, Man, Fanatic 1, Flea Firm, Troy Hicks, Dolphin Man, Jared, Nick Queck, Corey Walker, Jim McEwen, all of y'all coming through. I appreciate each and every one of you taking the time out. What up? Fox in the building. PL, the homie PL in the building too. Rolito, shout out to all of you. Perfect Tommy. Man, appreciate all of y'all taking the time out to come through. Kyle Farias, how are you doing, sir? Kurok, appreciate all y'all taking some of your Sunday out. Andy Jackson, we got a lot to talk about. Stuck mode. We got a lot to talk about. Before I do, I want to go ahead and plug Clean the World. You already know what time it is. Clean the World works with over 8,300 hospitality partners to divert their soap bars, plastic amenities from landfills, and recycle the collected soap into new bars. By doing so, Clean the World helps reduce pollution, save water, and decrease the carbon footprint of thousands of hotels globally, while helping improving the lives of women, children, men, and communities all over the world. Since established in 2009, Clean the World has distributed over 80 million bars of soap. The organization has also diverted 9 million pounds of plastic amenity bottles, over 29 million pounds of total waste from landfills, and helped Clean the World Foundation provide an estimated 17 billion individual hand washes to those in need across the globe. By recycling soap and other discarded hygiene items, Clean the World saves lives with items that traditionally end up in landfills. You can donate or even volunteer to help Clean the World's cause at cleantheworld.org. You already know what time it is. Go show some love to Clean the World. Doing fantastic stuff. All right, let's hop right into some things here. Number one, there are some... Okay, I'm going to preface everything I'm about to say with this. Remember, over 1,100 players were released on final roster cuts last year. Okay, over 1,100 players were released. Only about like 22 or something were claimed. So let's sit here and let's put our expectations at bay. All right? So that's the first thing I'm going to say. All right? And it's a matter of don't step on my toes. You know, I want these people to go and I won't step on yours down the line, et cetera, et cetera. It's one of those, you know, you rub my back, I rub yours type of deals. All right. Now, there are a few players out there right now that I would be keying in and interested in. Number one, if you guys saw it today, Nick Needham got released. I like Nick Needham better than Mike Hilton if you're going to roster him. I could probably make the argument I like Nick Needham better than Kendall Sheffield right now. So, and he's got scheme familiarity, team familiarity, knows what's expected of the coaching staff, etc., etc. I just think because of the whole familiarity thing, that would be an easy transition, especially if you're looking for a guy who can fill in on that nickel role behind Jason Marshall Jr., who, well, you'll see when I do my 53, I got penciled in as a starter right now. Kyle Faria says, am I crazy for thinking it's better to stick with Mike? Got uploaded today. So, Mike, you can't afford a mediocre season. Let me tell you that much. Without giving too much away, Mike can't afford a mediocre season. So, Nick Needham, that's something I'd be interested in. I'd be interested in that. Also, he's been getting work at safety the last couple of years. Nick Needham, to me, that's an interesting proposition if you want to say, hey, Reason, who's a player you would potentially put a claim in him. Now, another player who's out there and is being talked about a lot, La'el Collins. All right. Now, if you remember La'el Collins, when he came out of LSU, it was LSU, I believe. I'm pretty sure it was LSU when he came out of it. He came out of LSU, 110%. If you remember, we actually almost signed him before the Dallas Cowboys got a hold of him, because remember, he had a lot of that. He had that whole, legal issue going on that ended up actually getting dropped, and that's why he went undrafted as an UDFA, right? He would have been a first-round pick, second-round pick max, if not, but for that UDFA issue. La'el Collins. Now, here's the thing. La'el Collins can play right tackle. That's where he had his best years, right? That's where the majority of his starting snaps in his first run with Dallas came, right? Was at right tackle. All right? Right, when he was there till what? From 2025 to 2021, he was primarily a right tackle. The last couple of years, he's been shifted over to like left guard, and he's been moved around a little bit. Now, here's the reality of the situation here. He hasn't taken full-blown regular season snaps since like 2022. All right? He's been bouncing around on practice squads for the last couple years. Right? He bounced around. He went back to Dallas after Cincinnati. Then he went to Buffalo. Then he came back to Dallas, and Dallas just cut him today. I don't know. I don't know how into that I would be. Listen, at the same token, if someone says to me, hey, Reason, could it get, is it much worse than, I don't know, what we have in Larry Borum? Yeah, you're probably right. It's probably not. I'll give you credit. I just, I don't know. La'el Collins, I would understand if they did it, but I would also understand if they didn't. It could really go 50-50. But, I mean, if you want a guy who could potentially stick at right tackle, listen, this could be a potential backup answer at right tackle, or it could be a waste of a waiver claim. Where I'm at with this is, again, like I said, I would understand if they did it, and I would understand if they passed. All right? You look at some of the roster cuts that are out there right now, there hasn't been anything like, there's nothing, like I saw some people talking about Zy Alexander, we've already worked him out, we passed on him. So they're not going to go for someone like that. This is not going to happen. He's out the door. I think for us right now, the two guys that do make the sense for me that are out there would have to be La'el Collins or Nick Needham, and I would prefer Nick Needham. Now, I know some people want Jaheim Bell from New England, but man, we got enough issues at tight end. Why bring in another one? That guy I can't stick. You know what I mean? So, again, I want to tell all y'all, over 1,100 people were cut last year, and only, 22 or so were claimed? So temper your expectations, expecting the Miami Dolphins to come out here and claim the world. But right now, the only ones that are intriguing to me are La'el Collins and Nick Needham, and I would put Nick Needham ahead of La'el right now. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. What happened with Brian Robinson? 49ers gave nothing. Yeah, they gave a 6th-round pick. Remember, he's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. So that's what happened with Brian Robinson. And if you go check out my Patreon and channel member update, I have an update as to why they weren't doing a full court press on Brian Robinson in that update. But to me, when you look at the players that have been released so far, the most intriguing to me are Nick Needham and La'el Collins for obviously different reasons. Nick Needham, scheme familiarity, team familiarity, can play slot where we could use some help. And then obviously with La'el Collins, I would get it. All right, I get it. Do you want a better option than Larry Borom at right tackle? You think he might be because of his starting experience over, from 2015 to 2022? Okay, I get that. 110%. But he's been kind of flopped around the last couple of years to left guard. What about Kyle Duggar? Kyle Duggar is on the trade block. You're going to have to trade for Kyle Duggar. I don't see them trading for safety right now. Jedrick Wills seems like he is taking the season off to get healthy. So now there's obviously going to be more cuts happening over the next 48 hours. Final cutdowns have to be by Tuesday, 4 p.m. All right. So I already said, I guarantee you this guy, Chris Greer in that front office will be waiting until the 11th hour to actually make their cuts. You already know what time it is with that. Right. So, but all right, let's go ahead. Let's get into a few things. We do have a little bit to talk about. Before we get into my 53-man roster prediction, there is something I want to go over, and that would be an article from Barry Jackson, which kind of goes over everything that happened in the postgame from McDaniel and more. So it's kind of a 6-pack of thoughts and injury updates for the Miami Dolphins from Barry Jackson. So here we go. It's highly questionable if the Dolphins completely fix their offensive line, sufficiently address cornerback, or sign an effective backup quarterback. But hey, they might have aced the 3rd day of the draft. Aside from first-round pick Kenneth Grant and safety Minkah Fitzpatrick, the most intriguing new additions might end up being their 3rd-day draft haul, primarily Ollie Gordon, Jason Marshall Jr., and Jordan Phillips. Marshall's elevation to the first-team nickel corner job stands among the biggest stories of the preseason. Essentially, he shot past a presumed starter, Mike Hilton, and did it at a position that he had seldom played in high school or college. He acquitted himself nicely Saturday, albeit against the Jaguars' 2nd and 3rd stringers. His signature play was a hit that played a part in a Jaguars receiver dropping a 3rd down pass. He's a guy that's around the ball. Chris Greer said on draft night, he has ball skills, he has hands. So for us, he's a size corner with movement skills. McDaniel said after the game that Marshall has showed off some of his physicality at the position and that he's progressing nicely. Is Marshall better equipped for the job than Hilton, who's been one of the NFL's better nickel corners during the last 5 years? We'll find out soon enough, presuming he lines up with the starters against Daniel Jones, Drake May, and Josh Allen in the first 3 weeks of the season. Gordon's emergence has been both heartening and necessary, with injuries temporarily sidelining Achane and Wright. Even if Wright hadn't sustained a leg injury, Gordon has earned the number 2 job. So the NFL Network studio crew, they raved about Ollie at halftime. Brian Baldinger reminded the national audience that he led the nation in rushing for Oklahoma State in 2023, talking about how he's a talented big back. All right, so a little bit more. Ollie Gordon, he's been some hype. All right, so meanwhile, Phillips has elevated his game in recent weeks. Dante Trader, who's injured again after being sidelined earlier in training camp, has a skill set that could make him a useful player, but we might not see him until later in 2025 or 2026. The Dolphins' other 2 third-day picks, 7th round Quinn Ewers and Zeke Biggers, also have had good moments during the past 6 weeks. And I'll say this: don't hate on. Where's the love for Jonah? In the run game, Jonah's been an absolute freaking monster. Absolute monster. Meantime, a third-day pick from a year ago, Malik Washington completed a sterling preseason with 3 receptions, 41 yards, including a nifty 25-yard catch-and-run touchdown and a catch to convert a 4th and 6. He could be Miami's number 3 receiver, a role he seemingly snatched from Nick Westbrook-Akine. Blocking is where he has most improved from last year to this year, Tagovailoa said of Malik. With D. Eskridge laying claim to the 5th receiver job, the question is whether Taj Washington sticks as a 6th on the 53-man roster. Some injury updates. McDaniel said Wright is week to week with a leg injury. Jason Sanders left with an injury that isn't overly concerning about week 1. So, Jordan Brooks. Sanders would be able to kick point attempts. Jordan Brooks has something minor and would have played Saturday if it had been a regular season game. HN has had no setbacks with his calf injury and indicated by McDaniel he's looking forward to seeing him practice before the opener. McDaniel said Eichenberg's injury has kept him sidelined all of camp. Isn't a season-ending injury, but, quote, I don't foresee him becoming an immediate return. Channing Tindall and Eugene Asante competing for the 5th inside linebacker job sustained 4th quarter injuries. Asante lived off, helped by a trainer. Among encouraging developments on Saturday, the debut of Jalen Phillips, Bradley Chubb, Chop Robinson package paid dividends on the first play of the game when Robinson registered a sack. Phillips and Chubb shared a sack later. John Sanders grabbed a late interception and returned it 52 yards. Man, he was good this preseason. He's put himself in the discussion for a backup safety job. Eric Izakama did a terrific job holding on to a 17-yard catch on 4th and 16, but it might be too little too late, which I would agree. McClendon had a sack, putting a ribbon on an impressive camp in preseason, and B.J. Adams had a big hit to force an incomplete pass. Among the discouraging developments, Larry Borum, he struggled. He permitted a sack. Farrell Brown, in the absence of Darren Waller and Julian Hill, yielded a sack. And then they go about their toughest roster calls, but we'll get into mine here in a second. All right. So, what do you expect or anticipate Waddle will look like this year? I just drafted him in fantasy as wide receiver 2. I think he's going to vie for that wide receiver 1 spot, bro. I think him and Tua are on point this year. As long as Tua stays healthy, you're going to be locked in. I think you're looking at like a 1,400-yard season if Tua stays healthy. All right. So, but we'll see how he keeps locked in. All right, so there you go. We got some injury updates. I mean, the Achane stuff's not surprising. If you saw my Patreon update and channel member update, that's not really shocking at all. I'm telling you, Dante Trader, I mean, this guy's got to stay healthy. Holy jeez. I mean, and Jalen Wright, he's not doing himself any favors right now. So, and let's pray Jason Sanders is indeed good for the home opener. Last thing we need is this team to be relying on Justin Tucker. I know he's suspended for the first 10 weeks. I'm just being facetious. So, we'll see what happens, though. All right. Let's keep it moving here. Let's get into some of the PFF grades from yesterday, and then we'll go over my 53-man roster prediction and talk about a little bit, some more stuff here. So, getting into the PFF grades. Offensively, your highest grade player was Malik Washington by far. Keon Smith came in at 77.9, which is your second highest. Aaron Brewer was your third highest. Andrew Armstrong, fourth highest. Ryan Hayes with the fifth highest. Jalen Waddle, sixth highest. James Daniels at seventh highest. Izakama, 8. Rucci, 9. And Theo Weiss, 10. Your bottom guys, Tua Tagovailoa was your worst graded player. Then Jalen McKenzie. Then Tanner Connor. Then Mike Boone. Then Chris Myrick. And then AJ Henning and Patrick Paul. I didn't think Patrick Paul was bad. at all. So, I don't know about that. I mean, Larry Borum right in the middle here. Don't know about that. I mean, Jonas Savai in that run game, man. Look at pass blocking. And he had his best. Jonas Savai had his best pass blocking grade of the year. And look at him as a run blocker. Oh, boy. Love to see that. When you look from a passing standpoint, when you look at the pressure and depth, Zach Wilson had him 0 for 1 between the numbers deep, 2 for 2 between the numbers, middle of the field, on the intermediate level, 1 for 1 to the left on the short level, 2 for 4 over the middle of the field on the short level, and 1 for 1 to the right on the short level. Behind the line of scrimmage, he was 3 for 4, challenging the middle of the field. When he was kept clean, he was 7 for 11 for 66 yards. When he was under pressure on 5 dropbacks, he was 2 for 2 for 14 yards. 2 drops when he was kept clean, so his adjusted completion percentage his completion percentage jumps from 63.6 to an adjusted of 81.8. His time to throw when he was kept clean was 1.76 seconds. When he was under pressure, it's about 3.06 seconds. His NFL passer rating was actually better under pressure than it was when he was kept clean. So, and he was charged with no turnover-worthy throws. Quinn Ewers. Level. 3 for 3 to the left and 2 for 2 to the right on the short level. And then 1 for 1 to the left behind the line of scrimmage. When he was kept clean, he was 6 for 6, 60 yards. His time to throw was about 1.73 seconds. When he was under pressure, he was 1 for 2 for 6 yards. NFL passer rating when he was kept clean was 108.3. Wow, that's really good. Sacked twice under pressure. No turnover-worthy plays. Tua Tagovailoa 0 for 1 to the deep left. Donuts across the intermediate level. 1 for 1 short left. 3 for 4 short middle. When he was kept clean, he was 3 for 5 for 60% completion rating. 24 yards. He had 1 batted ball down. His time to throw was about 1.72 seconds. When he was under pressure, he was 1 for 3. Right? For a touchdown and 25 yards. And his passer rating was 104.2. His time to throw was still about 2.78 seconds when he was under pressure. So that's what it looks like from a passing standpoint. Blocking standpoint, Ryan Hayes gave up 2 pressures. Braden Daniels gave up 2 pressures and a sack. Ollie Gordon gave up a pressure. Josh Preby gave up a pressure. Larry Borum gave up a sack. And that's how it's charged. So the Dolphins give up 7 pressures, 5 hurries, and 2 sacks. Defensively, your top graded player was John Sanders Jr. Channing Tindall came in at number 2. B.J. Adams at 3. Daquan Jackson at 4. And Cam Smith at 5. Grayson Murphy at 6. Matthew Judon at 7. Ifeatu Melifonwu at 8. Jalen Phillips at 9. Cameron Dancer was your 10th highest. I told you he was tackling really well. Your lowest were Benito Jones. He had a 36.7. Isaiah Johnson with a 43. Jason Marshall Jr. with a 44.1. Patrick Morris with a 44.2. Rounding out the bottom 5 or Tyrell Dodson with a 45.3. When you look at the coverage matchups here, all right, Jason Marshall Jr. targeted 4 times, allowed 2 receptions for 15 yards. Also a drop from Trammell. Patrick McMorris targeted 4 times, allowed 3 receptions for 16 yards. Channing Tindall targeted 3 times, allowed 3 receptions for 15 yards. Cam Dancer targeted twice, allowed 2 receptions for 7 yards and a first down. Daquan Jackson targeted twice, allowed 2 receptions for 13 yards. Willie Gay targeted twice, allowed 1 reception for 10 yards. Eugene Asante targeted twice, allowed 1 reception for 6 yards. B.J. Adams targeted once, allowed 1 reception to Kevin Harris for 5 yards and a first down. Micah Fitzpatrick targeted once and allowed no receptions. Jordan Colbert targeted once, allowed 1 reception for 3 yards. Isaiah Johnson targeted once, allowed a 5-yard reception to Austin Trammell, which was a first down. Elijah Campbell, targeted once, allowed 1 reception for 7 yards. John Sanders, targeted once and picked it off. So, like to see that. And Jonathan Sanders is going to be a tough decision for this staff. I tell you, that's gonna be a tough decision for this staff. For real. So, that said, speaking of tough decisions, let's go ahead and let's get into my roster predictions here. My 53-man roster, how I see it shaping up for the Miami Dolphins. All right, 440 of you in the room. Smash that like button if you're new. Go ahead and subscribe, all right? So let's get into this. So here are my roster predictions. Let's start offensively. So I've got obviously Tua, Zach Wilson, and Quinn Ewers making it. Achane, Ollie Gordon, Jalen Wright at running back. Alec Ingold at fullback. I've kept 6 receivers. Tyreek Hill, Taj Washington, Malik Washington, D. Eskridge, Jalen Waddle, Nick Westbrook, Akine. A lot of people think Easy E might make this team. 0 chance. 0 chance. You're not keeping him over D. Eskridge because of what Eskridge does on special teams, and you're not keeping him over Taj because, let's be honest, Taj is like the perfect replacement for Tyreek if something happens. And Taj has just been balling. They're not going to happen. And I'll tell you one thing. That guy will get claimed right away by the Chicago Bears because Caleb Williams will want him back. I can almost guarantee you that. A tight end, maybe a shocker here. I've only got 3. Darren Waller, Julian Hill, and Pharaoh Brown. Have I been overly impressed by Pharaoh Brown? No, but he can block. Would I take Hayden Rucci over him? Probably, but it's the Dolphins. Now, this is where I'll make another prediction. I'm probably going to be wrong here. It's probably going to be Darren Waller, Julian Hill, and Tanner Connor. And if they keep a 4th, it'll be Brown. I don't think they should keep 4, though. The Tanner Connor experiment, to me, needs to be ended. I think it just doesn't offer you a ton. I think Hayden Rucci is more intriguing than Pharaoh Brown or Tanner Connor at this point. But Darren Waller is going to be our top tight end. At left tackle, I kept Patrick Paul and Keon Smith because Keon Smith can play guard. At left guard, I made a shocker here. I kept Jonah Savaianaya, and then over Larry Borum, I had Larry Borum not making this team. I had Braden Daniels because I like what I've seen from Braden Daniels early on. And Keon Smith can be your swing at left tackle or right tackle. Aaron Brewer and Andrew Meyer are the 2 centers that I have here. James Daniels and Liam Eichenberg. Now, Liam Eichenberg's probably going to start the year on IR, but he's going to have to make the 53 before he goes on IR, right? So, that's who I have at right guard. And then right tackle, Austin Jackson. All right. So, this is how I see the offense looking up. I know I don't have Tanner Connor making this team, which he's probably going to make this team. And yeah, I'm not keeping Larry Borum. I'm sorry. I don't see the intrigue. I don't get it. I don't think he's good enough to make this team. Just my opinion. So, I know there's going to be people that disagree 110%. That's fine. This is how I see it playing out, and this is how I would be selecting this. But yeah, I don't have, and we'll get into a couple other names here that you don't see, but I don't have Tanner Connor making this team, and I don't have Larry Borum, and I don't think any of those, like Mike Boone or Shamplin, you're not going to keep any of those running backs to me. Daniel Brunskill, who we had high hopes for, yeah, I don't have him making this team. I thought his preseason and it was really rough, and I thought he was non-existent at camp. All right. So now let's switch it over. Let's go to defense. On defense, I got your front being Zach Sealer, Zeke Biggers, Benito Jones, Jordan Phillips, and Kenneth Grant. Now, again, there's going to be people that definitely disagree with this. I don't think there's room for Ben Stille, Dickerson, Butler, and Huntley. And if there was going to be one for one, it was going to be Dickerson. But I just don't see the room there when you look at where we got to fill out the rest of it here. Now, at edge, your outside linebackers, what I've gone with here is Jalen Phillips, Chop Robinson, Grayson Murphy, Bradley Chubb, and Matthew Judon. Listen, it's going to come down to Quinn Bell, Grayson Murphy, and Cam Good for that 5th and final spot. And I think they're going to bet on the upside of Grayson Murphy. They've been giving him more special teams reps as of late. You know, the guy creates pressures. Are there downsides to his game, like his arms? And does he just get washed out when trying to set the edge sometimes? Yes. Now, we have seen him set the edge a few times, but for the majority of the time, he still needs to get better there right now. And it's always going to be hard for him because of his arm length. But this is how I see that edge room working out. I think they're only going to keep 5. And Jalen Phillips, Chop Robinson, Bradley Chubb, and Judon are locks. Grayson Murphy seems like the intriguing one there. At linebacker, I didn't carry a 5th. I kept 4. All right. And Jordan Brooks, KJ Britt, Tyrell Dotson, Willie Gay Jr. are the 4 that I kept. So that means I didn't have Tyndall making the team. I didn't have Eugene Asante, who got hurt, making the team. You know? Daquan Jackson, I think he's not going to make the team. But I don't think there's a point in changing Tyndall and Eugene Asante. I think right now you could sneak Eugene Asante right to the practice squad. At corner, for me, Jack Jones, Ethan Bonner, Storm Duck, Cam Smith, and then Jason Marshall Jr. and Kendall Sheffield. Yes, I have Mike Hilton not making this team. Kendall Sheffield can contribute on special teams and has played and has experience at nickel and can also go out and play on the boundary. You know, I just don't think BJ Adams did enough. Cam Dancer just got here. Cornell Armstrong wasn't really good. Ethan Robinson didn't do nearly enough. So those are the 6 corners I have them rolling with. And remember, Jason Marshall Jr. can play the boundary as well as a nickel. Kendall Sheffield, boundary as well as nickel. Mike Hilton, more of a nickel specialist. So those guys give you flexibility with your packages. So that's how I have the corner room working out. Now, at safety, I got Ifeatu Melifonwu, Ashton Davis, Minka Fitzpatrick, Elijah Campbell, and Dante Trader Jr. Now, Dante Trader Jr. could start the season on PUP or IR for all we know. You know? I mean, that's just it. So, again, that would open up a roster spot. You know? So, you could fit in someone who didn't make the cut right here. Like, the Tanner Connor could be fit in. You know? Same thing with Eichenberg, right? I have Eichenberg making it, and he could get slid to IR or PUP. So, there's 2 open roster spots from the 53 I'm already putting together where you could slide some of the guys they want to slide to the practice squad onto the team. And I saw someone saying, why is Chop Robinson a backup? I mean, brother, it's not about who starts. It's about how many reps you get at the end of the day. So that's how I have the defense lined up right now. You know, it's remember, they want to run 3 safeties. So what if they even keep a 6 safety for all I know? We'll see. And then Ashton Davis. You know, we talked about Eichenberg. Talk about Dante Trader Jr. Ashton Davis could start the season on PUP or the IR. That opens up a third roster spot of the names we've gone over so far. And I do not think Ethan Bonner is getting cut. He was one of our better corners in the preseason when he played. Ethan Bonner ain't getting cut. On special teams, Jason Sanders, Jake Bailey, and then our long snapper is Joe Cardona. That's pretty much, that's the easiest one of them all. And then these are the players that I have the Dolphins sliding to their practice squad. All right. So don't mind the two bottom rows. Just look at the first four rows. Hayden Rucci, Andrew Meyer, Addison West, Josh Preby, Theo Weiss Jr., Andrew Armstrong, Tanner Connor, Patrick McMorris, BJ Adams, Isaiah Johnson, John Sanders, Derek McClendon, Matt Dickerson, Mo Kamara, Quentin Bell, and Eugene Asante. That's who I have making this. All right? To me, that makes the most sense. Right? Those 16 players. And then some of those players are going to get called up. Like if Dante Trader starts on PUP or IR, I think John Sanders gets the call up. Right? Tanner Connor could very well make this roster because we know how they roll. So, and I would like to see them continue to develop Addison West, Josh Preby, and Andrew Meyer on that interior. So, yes, Quentin Bell is eligible. So is Derek McClendon. So, to me, that is probably the most interesting practice squad we could put together with the names we have. Now, will all of those names get to the practice squad? I don't know. I mean, let's be real here. Theo Weiss Jr., there's a chance he gets snatched. Tanner Connor, if they try to slide into practice squad, there's maybe a chance he gets snagged. Has John Sanders Jr. put out good enough film? There's a chance. It really felt like they were trying to hide Matt Dickerson yesterday. And then Quentin Bell, he's another one where, he had starting reps from last year. And, I got Andrew Meyer on both. No, Andrew Meyer's supposed to be on what's it called? On the making the team. So, I don't know. We'll see. It's an interesting mixture of players. That's for sure. And, like Quentin Bell could get snatched. I don't think anyone's going to snatch Mo Kamara or Isaiah Johnson or McMorris or Rucci or BJ Adams. But I think Theo Weiss, John Sanders, Quentin Bell, those are and Matt Dickerson are probably your most intriguing to get snatched. For sure. So, I don't know. We'll see how it all works out. We got till 4 p.m. on Tuesday for this team to cut it down to 53. So, next 48 hours are going to be real interesting. All right? So, appreciate each and every one of you for coming through. Listen, I'm going to get out of here. I appreciate all of you. I just wanted to talk about some of the fallout from what went down yesterday. All right, the preseason finale. We got 500 of you in the room. Smash that like button. If you're new, go ahead and subscribe and keep it locked in here over the next 48 hours, and we'll let you know what goes down exactly with roster cuts and everything regarding that. All right, so I will see all of y'all in the next one. Until then, you already know what time it is. Fins up all day, every day. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and we'll see you on the next one.